This really important court story. Ntuthuko Shoba says it's a coincidence that his cell phone was near a phone used to organise Tshegofatso Pule's murder. Shoba, of course, is accused of being the mastermind of the murder of his pregnant girlfriend. Cell phone records have shown that he was in communication with Pule's confessed killer before the murder. So today Shoba was grilled during cross-examination. Our reporter Govan Whittles was there. He's been tracking developments today. So Govan, I mean, this was a really big day for this trial. What was the main focus of the cross-examination?
Well, it was clear that the state was trying to get some information that would specifically link Ntuthuko Shoba to the killing and prove that he was in fact in contact with the hitman. And in this case, it was an older version of a phone, which was not a touch screen. It's not a smartphone. It's one of those old ones, which is often, as the state prosecutor mistakenly said in court, called a sugar phone, because it's usually used on the side. But this time it was used to orchestrate the killing. So that's not in dispute here. The hitman himself says that he was contacted through this phone. The hitman's phone records show that this phone did indeed contact the hitman. What's being disputed is who it belongs to. And Ntuthuko Shoba says it's not his. But the phone has been pinged right next to Ntuthuko Shoba's registered smartphone on more than 4 occasions. And a pattern emerged where the prosecution which the prosecution laid out in court. Essentially what would happen is the hitman would call the phone which is disputed, and then a minute after that Ntuthuko Shoba would call Tshegofatso Pule, and then a minute after that the disputed phone would call the hitman back. And this happened right up until Tshegofatso Pule was kidnapped and killed. And then after she was killed, the phone was again in contact with the hitman to facilitate a payment. Now, Ntuthuko Shoba says that's not his phone. And when asked why was it really close to your phone on these crucial occasions, he's dismissed it as a coincidence. And this has been left for the judge, acting judge Stuart Wilson, to decide on. But let's have a look at what Ntuthuko Shoba said in court.
I can't comment on the disputed phone. Looking at this from my personal phone, 8:55 I tried Tshegofatso, 8:57 I tried Tshegofatso, 9 o'clock I tried Tshegofatso, so that's all within 5 minutes. So I tried it 3 times, it was ringing and didn't pick up. And this is the next morning after she left. I just wanted to check if she got on fine. On the coincidence part about the disputed phone, I can't comment on that.
So the best he's got is it was a coincidence. Any new evidence emerging today during the process of cross-examination?
Yes, some new evidence coming from questioning by the acting judge of Ntuthuko Shoba. This is really interesting because this really emerged right at the tail end of his cross-examination after the state had a chance to cross-examine him and his own defense had a chance to re-examine him. The judge asking him, listen, you say you were 7 or 8 meters away from Tshegofatso Pule when she went to this jeep. Did you hear anything? Did you speak to anyone there? He says, yes, by the way, I did hear something. That he says Tshegofatso Pule walked up to the jeep and said to the driver, look at how sloshed you are, i.e. look at how drunk you are. And then the driver said to Tshegofatso Pule, according to Ntuthuko Shoba, let's go. Nothing more than that. And he still allowed her to get into the car, 8.5 months pregnant. And of course, in the car we now know was the convicted hitman, Malipane, who said that Ntuthuko Shoba had sent him there to pick up Tshegofatso Pule and kidnap her and kill her. But this version seems to infer that Shoba thinks that there was some sense of familiarity between Tshegofatso Pule and the driver of the jeep, who he couldn't identify because he was wearing a mask and a cap. And he couldn't see whether it was the hitman, because the previous times he had visited the hitman to buy cigarettes, the hitman wasn't wearing a mask, so he couldn't compare to those previous times. This new information came out in court and seemed to take aback much of the gallery, as well as the judge, who asked for some clarity.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying yesterday, that you would allow your heavily pregnant girlfriend to get into a car late at night, not check on the driver, and then you hear her say, you're drunk. and you let her sail off. Yes, it just sounds very unusual indeed. Cross-examination has finished. What's going to happen tomorrow?
So the defense isn't done. They still have witnesses to call. And tomorrow they'll be calling, we understand, the hitman's girlfriend, who owns the Jeep that Ntuthuko Shoba says he saw Tshegofatso Pule get into, which was the last time he saw her. So that would be some pretty interesting testimony, but we do understand she's being called by the defense to clarify a few things in her initial statement, which she had given during the investigation. So another day, a short appearance from 2 o'clock, and then closing arguments is set for next week, but it is, again, anticipated testimony in the Ntuthuko Shoba murder trial.
It's so important that we get to the bottom of this one. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on the cross-examination today of Ntuthuko Shoba. That was our reporter, Govan Whittles.